Guns rise, people drop. Glass shatters. It's over in seconds. But those seconds leave bodies, fear and chaos behind. These weren't desperate crimes. They were operations, planned with precision, executed without hesitation, and it starts in Paris, inside a jewelry store that was never supposed to bleed. The Harry Winston Paris Jewel Heist, Paris. December 2008. Christmas lights glow along Avenue Montaigne, the city at its most elegant. But under that glow, a plan is already in motion, one that will strip one of France's most prestigious jewelers of nearly 80 million euros in diamonds. At Harry Winston, wealth isn't displayed, it's worshipped. Each stone has a name, a history, a story. And on this winter evening, that story is about to be rewritten. Just after closing time, a group of men walk toward the boutique. To passers-by, nothing seems off. They're dressed in fine coats, wigs, and even women's clothing, subtle disguises meant to disarm suspicion. One carries a handbag, another adjusts a scarf. No one sees the weapons underneath. They enter the store, calm and confident. Security doesn't react. It looks like late-night customers, or maybe colleagues. Then the door locks behind them. In a flash, the room changes. Voices rise, guns are drawn. The thieves move with precision, shouting orders in fluent French, calling some staff members by their first names. They'd done their homework. They knew who to control first, where the high-value cases were, and exactly how long they had before police could respond. One employee is forced to open display cabinets, while another is dragged toward the back safe. The sound of glass breaking fills the air, and for the next 20 minutes, the Harry Winston store becomes a scene of controlled chaos. Necklaces, earrings, diamond rings, and rare timepieces, everything within reach disappears into black bags. Each man works a specific area, like a choreographed performance. One watches the clock, another keeps a weapon pointed at the staff. No panic, no wasted movement. By the time they're done, the robbers have cleaned out nearly every major showcase, walking away with around 80 million euros, making it the largest jewelry heist in French history. They exit calmly, disappearing into the winter night. When the alarm finally triggers, it's already too late. Police arrive to find terrified employees, shattered cases, and empty velvet trays. The CCTV footage confirms the nightmare, every detail caught on camera. The wigs, the disguises, the speed, and the calm. Always the calm. In the days that follow, Paris becomes obsessed. Headlines call them the Pink Panthers, a network of professional thieves suspected of high-end robberies across Europe, and the similarities fit perfectly. Precision timing, bold disguises, zero bloodshed. But catching them proves harder than anyone expects. Months pass, leads fade. Then, in 2009, arrests begin. Connections to the original Pink Panther network, and even ties to a 2007 Harry Winston robbery, where the same boutique was hit for another 25 million euros. Two strikes on the same target, less than 2 years apart. By 2015, 8 men are convicted for their roles in the 2008 heist, some sentenced to over a decade in prison. But the diamonds, most never return. Experts believe they were split, recut, and sold under new names, fragments of stolen history scattered through private collections worldwide. And the next heist wouldn't rely on disguise or deception. It wouldn't be silent or elegant. It would be loud, violent, and terrifying. And instead of diamonds, the thieves would take something far heavier. The Securitas Depot robbery, Kent, England. A quiet night in February 2006, but inside the walls of a cash depot in Tonbridge, history's about to be made, not by bankers, but by thieves. The Securitas Depot was supposed to be untouchable, steel-reinforced walls, cameras on every corner, tens of millions of pounds in cash moving in and out daily, guarded by men who trusted that nothing could breach that system. They were wrong. On the evening of February 21st, the depot's manager, Colin Dixon, is driving home after a routine shift. Blue lights flash behind him. A police car signals him to pull over. He does, because who wouldn't? The officers approach, uniforms, badges, calm voices. But within seconds, Dixon realizes something's wrong. He's staring down the barrel of a gun. The police are imposters. They handcuff him, shove him into a vehicle, and drive him toward the edge of town. There, in a secluded farmhouse, his wife and young son are already waiting, kidnapped earlier that night by the same gang. The message is clear: do exactly as we say or they die. That night, Dixon's life, and the safety of everyone he works with, becomes leverage. Under the threat of his family's execution, he agrees to help them get inside the depot. Just after midnight, Dixon returns to the Securitas facility. His staff notice something's off. He's pale, shaking, avoiding eye contact. But when he tells them to disable certain locks, they obey. He's the manager. And when you see a gun pressed into his ribs, you stop asking questions. Within minutes, around 14 masked men flood the depot. They're heavily armed, shotguns, submachine guns, military-grade gear. The staff are restrained, forced onto the floor, faces covered. Some are threatened, others reassured. The thieves move with a cold professionalism. No wasted words, no chaos, just order. Over the next hour, they load £52,996,760, nearly £53 million in cash, into the back of a truck. The kind of money that doesn't even look real when it's stacked high in plastic crates. One of the largest cash thefts in British history, pulled off without a single gunshot fired. When the thieves finally disappear into the night, they leave behind shaken employees and a warehouse stripped bare. It takes hours for the staff to free themselves and call for help. By then, the gang is gone, and so is the money. The following morning, news breaks across the UK. The scale of the robbery stuns the country. £53 million, gone overnight. It's not just a heist, it's a logistical masterpiece. Whoever planned it knew everything: the depot's layout, its routines, its weaknesses, even the timing of the last cash delivery. For weeks, police scour the countryside. They find burned-out getaway cars, hidden stash sites, and clues that point to a sprawling criminal network. The investigation becomes one of the largest in British law enforcement history. Eventually, arrests follow. Former security workers, known gang associates, and skilled criminals from across the UK. During the trial, prosecutors reveal the scale of preparation: stolen police uniforms, forged IDs, months of surveillance and meticulous planning. But not all of the money is ever recovered. In fact, most of it never is. Tens of millions of pounds still missing, believed to have been laundered, buried, or smuggled out of the country. For Colin Dixon and his family, the ordeal leaves scars that no conviction could erase. He wasn't part of the robbery. He was a victim used as a key. And to this day, that night stands as a chilling reminder of how control can be stolen, even from those who think they have it. The Securitas Depot robbery remains the largest cash heist in UK history, a blueprint for organised crime built on fear, precision and manipulation. But while this robbery was cold and calculated, the next one would unfold live, in front of cameras, hostages, and an entire city watching in real time. The Amsterdam Apple Store hostage crisis. Amsterdam, February 22, 2022. Evening rush hour. The Leidseplein Square, a crowded open hub filled with cafes, tourists and neon lights bouncing off wet pavement. At the corner stands the Apple Store, its glass facade glowing like a beacon. Inside, people browse casually, unaware that within minutes, their ordinary evening will turn into one of Europe's most watched hostage crises. Just after 5:30 p.m, a man walks in. He's dressed in a camouflage jacket, carrying a large backpack. Security watches him for a moment. Maybe he looks nervous, or maybe just cold. Then he pulls out a gun. Panic erupts instantly. People run for the stairs. Some duck behind display tables. The gunman fires a shot into the air, a single deafening crack that echoes through the glass walls and out into the square. In seconds, dozens of customers and employees scatter. Some hide in stockrooms. Others barricade themselves in storage areas. But one man doesn't make it out. A customer, caught near the entrance. The gunman grabs him, pulls him close, presses the barrel of his weapon against him. From that moment on, he isn't just a robber. He's a hostage taker. Police are called almost immediately. Within minutes, Leidseplein is locked down. Sirens, armored vehicles, snipers taking position on rooftops, helicopters circle above as the city holds its breath. Inside, the situation becomes a standoff. The suspect demands 200 million euros in cryptocurrency and safe passage out of the city. He claims to have explosives. He says if he doesn't get what he wants, he'll detonate the building and kill everyone inside. As night falls, negotiators establish contact. For hours, they try to calm him, asking what he needs, buying time, trying to keep him talking. Every move is recorded through public surveillance and live police feeds. Across the square, journalists begin to gather. People watch from behind barricades as the glow of the Apple logo becomes a backdrop for fear. Inside, the hostages remain silent, terrified, trapped, listening to footsteps and muffled voices echo through the store. The tension stretches minute by minute, hour by hour. Then, after more than 5 hours, something changes. The suspect demands water. Police deliver it by robot, rolling it across the floor toward him. He watches it carefully, distracted, and that's when the hostage moves. In a sudden burst, the man breaks free and sprints for the exit. In that instant, the gunman lunges after him, stepping directly into the open doorway. Outside, a police sniper shouts, "Now!" A vehicle accelerates, slamming into the suspect at full force. The crowd screams. Officers rush forward. The hostage is pulled to safety, trembling, alive. The suspect lies motionless on the pavement. He's taken into custody and later dies from his injuries. It's over. 5 hours of fear. Dozens of people hidden inside that building, unsure if they'd see daylight again, and the world watched it all, live as it unfolded. In the aftermath, investigators confirm what they'd feared. The suspect was armed with multiple weapons and carried explosives, later found to be fake, but convincing enough to paralyze an entire city. His motive, desperation, debt, delusion, never fully clear. The Amsterdam Apple Store hostage crisis became a symbol of a new kind of crime, one built not just on violence but visibility, a world where every second of terror is filmed, streamed and replayed before the blood even dries. And in the next case, visibility wouldn't just expose the violence, it would multiply it. Because the next robbery didn't happen behind closed doors, it happened on the streets, in traffic, surrounded by innocent people. The Miramar Ups truck hijacking, Florida. December 5th, 2019, a Thursday afternoon, normal traffic, sunshine and a delivery truck heading down Miramar Parkway. Nothing about the scene looks unusual. Until the first gunshot. Moments earlier, 2 armed robbers had tried to hit a jewelry store in Coral Gables. It went wrong, fast, shots fired, a woman injured. The suspects flee before police arrive, jumping into the nearest vehicle they can find. A UPS delivery truck still running, driver inside. His name is Frank Ordonez, 27 years old. He's on his regular route, minutes from finishing his shift. In an instant, he becomes a hostage. The robbers take the wheel, force him to drive. Behind them, the police pursuit begins. Dozens of units from multiple jurisdictions racing through South Florida traffic. It's rush hour, every intersection packed with commuters. And right in the middle of it all, a brown UPS truck, marked visible, impossible to miss. For the next 25 minutes, the chase unfolds live across television screens. News helicopters circle above. Reporters narrate the unfolding danger in real time. Viewers at home watch, not realizing they're seeing the final moments of multiple lives. The truck speeds through red lights, weaving between cars. Police follow with weapons drawn, trying to contain the chaos, but unwilling to risk a direct assault with a hostage inside. Every second, the tension builds. Drivers on the highway pull over, filming from their phones. The world watches from above, seeing but powerless to stop what's coming. Then the truck hits a dead end, traffic gridlocked at a busy intersection in Miramar. Hundreds of vehicles stopped, civilians everywhere. There's nowhere left to run. Officers exit their cars, take positions behind nearby vehicles. The robbers inside the UPS truck open fire. Police respond instantly. Gunfire erupts. Dozens of rounds, echoing through traffic. Commuters scream, ducking behind cars as glass rains down. The crossfire lasts seconds, but feels endless. When it stops, the silence is worse than the gunfire. The two suspects are dead. But so is Frank Ordonez, the UPS driver who never had a chance to escape. And among the cars caught in traffic, a bystander, struck and killed in the exchange. The footage spreads online within minutes. Helicopter shots replay across every major network. The chase, the gunfight, the aftermath. Commentators dissect every angle. And a question begins to echo. Did the response save lives or take them? Public outrage follows. Some defend the officers, saying the suspects left them no choice. Others argue that the crossfire was reckless, that it turned a crowded street into a war zone. In the months that follow, lawsuits, investigations, and public debates dominate headlines. The tragedy becomes more than a case file, it becomes a symbol. The Miramar UPS hijacking wasn't just a robbery gone wrong, it was a mirror, reflecting how chaos and panic can overtake judgment when violence spills into the open. A moment when law enforcement, civilians, and criminals collided in the same deadly space, and the line between control and catastrophe disappeared. The footage is still replayed, still studied, every frame frozen in the minds of those who watched it live. A reminder that sometimes, even when the criminals die, the damage doesn't end there. And while that highway turned into a battlefield, our next story would show what happens when an entire city becomes the target. Because in Brazil, crime isn't always about escape. Sometimes it's about domination. The Criciúma City Siege, Brazil. November 30th, 2020. A quiet Monday night in the southern city of Criciúma, Santa Catarina. The streets are empty. The only sound, the low hum of traffic lights changing over an almost deserted downtown. But just before midnight, that silence breaks. A convoy rolls in, black SUVs, pickup trucks, motorcycles. Dozens of men step out, dressed head to toe in tactical black, carrying heavy rifles, explosives, and body armor. No masks of desperation here. These are professionals, trained, coordinated, ready for war. In seconds, the city belongs to them. They move like a military unit, blocking key intersections, setting fire to vehicles, and deploying makeshift barricades. Their goal isn't just the bank of its control. The robbers split into teams. One group heads for the Banco do Brasil, the others spread across the city, taking up sniper positions and setting traps to delay the police. The first explosions shake the night sky. Civilians wake to the sound of detonations echoing through the streets, a deep, rhythmic pounding that rattles windows and triggers car alarms across the city. At the bank, explosives tear through reinforced doors. Flashes of orange light burst across the square, followed by bursts of automatic gunfire. For the people of Criciúma, it feels like a battlefield. Police rush toward the scene, but they can't get close. Every route is blocked by burning cars and armed men firing into the air. And then, the hostages. The robbers drag civilians out of their homes, forcing them to lie across intersections and streets. They make them sit on the ground, hands behind their heads, forming human shields. A message to law enforcement. You shoot, they die. For nearly 2 hours, the city is under siege. The attackers move freely, looting cash vaults, hauling bags of money into waiting trucks. Witnesses film from balconies and rooftops, capturing the chaos. Masked gunmen firing down empty streets, explosions lighting up the skyline, the sound of orders shouted in Portuguese echoing through the night. Inside the bank, the damage is surgical, walls destroyed, safes emptied, alarms disabled. When they're done, the gang retreats as fast as they came, firing shots into the air as they flee, scattering nail traps across the road to slow pursuit. Then a silence again. But it's a different kind of silence now, the kind that follows trauma. By dawn, Criciúma looks like a war zone. Burned cars, shattered glass, empty shells littering the streets. Residents emerge cautiously, filming the aftermath. Police begin counting what's missing and what's left behind. Investigators later describe the attack as a military-style operation. Dozens of men, dozens of vehicles, heavy explosives, long-range rifles, even drones used for surveillance. They moved with precision, coordination, and absolute confidence. It wasn't just a robbery. It was a message a show of power from a new wave of Brazilian gangs practicing what locals call the novo cangaço, a brutal, coordinated method of raiding cities, overpowering entire police forces, and escaping before sunrise. Over the following months, police make arrests, weapons seized, suspects detained, cars recovered, but much of the money, and many of the men, disappear without a trace. Criciúma will never forget that night, because for 2 hours, it wasn't just a city. It was a battlefield. And every explosion was a reminder that in Brazil's new era of organized crime, fear is the most valuable currency of all. But just when the world thought it had seen the limits of violence, another Brazilian city would face something even more disturbing. Because 1 year later, a different crew would use civilians not just as shields, but as armor. The Aratuba bank robbery, Brazil again. August 29, 2021, a warm Sunday night in Aratuba, a quiet city in São Paulo state. Shops closed, streets nearly empty. People at home, scrolling through their phones, unaware that a convoy of cars was already rolling toward them, engines low, headlights off. Just after midnight, the nightmare begins. A series of explosions rips through the downtown. The sound is deafening, echoing between buildings, shaking the ground for blocks. It's not an accident, it's a coordinated assault. Dozens of armed men flood into the city center. Black clothes, masks, rifles, explosives. They know exactly where they're going. The Banco do Brasil and Caixa Econômica federal branches, 2 banks side by side, loaded with cash from the weekend. Within minutes, Aratuba looks like a war movie. Explosions light up the night sky. Gunfire rattles through the streets. Police sirens start, then stop, as officers realize they're walking into an ambush. The robbers have prepared for everything. They've blocked every major exit with burning cars. They've spread explosives across key roads, remote detonated traps waiting for pursuit. And most horrifying of all, they've taken hostages. Civilians are dragged from their cars, their homes, even from the street. The gang ties them to the roofs and hoods of getaway vehicles, arms spread, taped down, faces pale under the flashing lights. Their message is clear: you shoot, you kill an innocent. Drones hover overhead, feeding live video to the robbers. Every move of the police is watched in real time. Inside the banks, explosions tear through safes and vaults as the gang works quickly, efficiently. For nearly 2 hours, Aratuba belongs to them. Residents film from balconies, shaky phone footage showing masked gunmen firing into the air, trucks speeding past with human shields clinging to them in terror. The videos go viral before the heist even ends. The entire world watches as the city dissolves into chaos. At around 2:30 a.m., the robbers make their escape, a convoy of vehicles loaded with money, hostages strapped to the metal as living armor. Behind them, the center of the city burns. By the time the police regain control, the gang is already gone. Morning comes, and Aratuba looks like a battlefield. Streets littered with shell casings and debris, car alarms still blaring, and in the middle of it all, the silent aftermath of what Brazil's police will later call one of the most brutal and well-coordinated robberies in the nation's history. The scale of the attack shocks the country. 50 men, 15 vehicles, assault rifles, homemade bombs, and drones controlling the sky. This wasn't just robbery. It was terrorism for profit. Over the next few weeks, investigators hunt down suspects across multiple states. Some are arrested, others killed in gunfights. A few are never found, and much of the stolen money remains missing, scattered through Brazil's underworld. But the images, the hostages tied to cars, screaming for help as they're driven through the city, become impossible to forget. They redefine what a bank robbery even means. This wasn't just theft, it was control, domination, a show of power that turned an entire city into a hostage. The Aratuba heist proved that crime in Brazil had evolved, from robbery to warfare to spectacle. But the next case would shift the focus once again, away from war zones and armed gangs, and into something quieter, something that looked almost harmless, until the doors opened. The Walnut Creek Nordstrom Flash Mob Robbery, California, November 20th, 2021. A quiet Saturday night in Walnut Creek, an upscale suburb outside San Francisco. At the edge of Broadway Plaza, the lights of a Nordstrom store glow across polished windows. Inside, shoppers browse the holiday displays, perfume counters, designer handbags, soft music. It's calm, ordinary. Then the engines start. Just after 9 p.m., car after car pulls into the street outside. Black SUVs, sedans, everything running. Doors swing open and people pour out. Dozens of them, hoodies up, masks on, gloves. They sprint straight for the entrance. In seconds, the calm turns to chaos. Glass doors burst open. 80 people rush the store at once, shouting, shoving, tearing merchandise from displays. The sound is deafening, alarms blaring, shelves collapsing, footsteps pounding like a stampede. Security tries to intervene. One guard is pepper sprayed. Another is knocked to the floor. Shoppers drop their bags and run for the exits as thieves sweep entire racks of designer coats and handbags into garbage bags. Outside, getaway cars idle in a perfect line. The operation lasts barely 1 minute, but in that minute the Nordstrom is gutted, thousands of dollars in merchandise gone. Witnesses film from across the street as people run out of the store with armfuls of goods, disappearing into traffic before police even arrive. By the time officers reach the scene, the mob is gone. A few vehicles are stopped, 3 suspects arrested, but most vanish into the night, lost in the swarm. The videos flood social media within hours. Hashtags trend, news outlets replay the same clips. Dozens of figures moving like a single organism, unstoppable, anonymous. It looks less like theft and more like a system breaking down in front of everyone. Investigators later confirm what many feared. It wasn't spontaneous. It was organized online, coordinated through messages and group chats. Dozens of people converging on one store, one time, knowing police couldn't react fast enough. The Walnut Creek flash mob robbery becomes a national symbol, not of desperate crime, but of something colder. A generation discovering how to weaponize coordination itself. And what makes it worse? The cameras catch everything, yet no one can stop it. No masks to pull off, no leader to arrest, just a blur of faces that vanish into the night. The footage still circulates, chaotic, dizzying, unreal. 80 people moving as one, no guns, no explosions, just speed, fear, and numbers. But the next story brings us back to violence, not from a crowd, but from 2 men on a moped, and one victim who refused to give up his watch. A robbery that would turn fatal and remind London how fast luxury can cost a life. The Danny Pierce Rolex robbery murder, London. July 15, 2017. A warm night in Greenwich. Quiet, clean, familiar. People leaving bars, laughing, walking home under the soft glow of streetlights. Among them is Danny Pierce, 31 years old, a father, a partner, a man finishing a simple night out with friends. It's just after midnight when he says goodbye and starts the short walk to his car. His girlfriend walks beside him. Then, out of the darkness, 2 men appear, fast, focused, riding a moped. They stop in front of him, helmets on, knives in hand. One shouts a single demand, "Give us the watch." Danny's wearing a Rolex, the kind of thing most people never notice until someone with bad intentions does. He hesitates. Maybe he's confused. Maybe he thinks it's a bluff. But in that 1 second of uncertainty, everything changes. The robbers move closer. Danny pushes his girlfriend behind him, trying to shield her. And then, violence. He's stabbed repeatedly. The attackers shoot him. They grab the watch and flee into the night, leaving him bleeding on the pavement. The CCTV cameras capture it all. The blur of the moped speeding away. The street empty except for a man lying motionless, and a woman screaming for help. When police arrive, it's already too late. Danny Pierce dies at the scene. A senseless murder. For a watch. In the days that follow, the footage spreads through London. Still images from the CCTV appeal flash across every news channel. The city is outraged. Moped gangs, once known for quick, non-violent snatch and grabs, have escalated. Now they're armed, ruthless, and unpredictable. Detectives trace the getaway route through traffic cameras, analyzing hours of video frame by frame. Weeks later, suspects are identified. One by one, arrests are made. By 2019, both attackers are convicted, life sentences for a murder that stunned the country. But the shock never really fades, because it wasn't a heist or a siege or a hostage crisis. It was just two men, one street, and a life taken in seconds. A reminder that violence doesn't always need a plan. Sometimes it just needs an opportunity. For Danny Pierce's family, justice came slowly. But for London, his death became a warning. Luxury can make you a target, and sometimes the price of what you wear is everything you'll ever have. The money fades, the cameras stop, but the fear, that stays. Because once you've seen what people will do for greed, you never look at safety the same way again.